Welcome Pastor Kyle Parker from Eastern Shore Presbyterian Church. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, City Council. How are you?
Oh.
Let's pray. Father, we are grateful to be able to gather and to do so under the might of your freedom. And it is nothing that should ever be taken for granted, as it was the cost of many, and ultimately your Son, who we were able to gather and to proclaim, to be able to have difficulty, to debate, to reason together, to make decisions, and to submit one to another. The words of the apostle are very fitting. I have heard of your faith in the Lord, and your love towards all. I do not cease to give thanks for you, remembering you in my prayers, that the God of our Lord Jesus, the Father of glory, may give you the spirit of wisdom and of revelation, the knowledge of him, having eyes of your hearts enlightened, that you may know what is the hope to which he has called you, that you are the riches of his glorious inheritance in the saints, the immeasurable greatness of his glorious inheritance for all who believe. And Lord, we gather amidst those that believe in you and those that don't believe in you, and we do so with the common understanding that your grace extends to all. We pray for the members of our city council. We're grateful for those that are gathered that keep our city free and safe from fire and of accident, and think for our police. We pray for our mayor. We ask, Lord, for all of our city employees. And we are mindful of the complexities of what's been a very difficult and lengthy season in our nation and indeed this community. We pray that you would bless these proceedings well and deeply. We know, Lord, the weighty matters that are to be discussed, issues of commerce, issues of care for residents, issues of safety, issues of the might of our future. And we pray, Lord, that we have just proclaimed in light of your word, that you would bring wisdom and bearing, understanding and grace upon these proceedings, and upon these, your servants that have been duly elected, and we are grateful for them. In Christ's name, we give thanks. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right. The first order of business is approving the minutes of the January 10th, 2022 regular city council meeting and the work session.
Move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Council, any comments, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right. Minutes pass. Mayor, your report, please.
Thank you. Just a couple things tonight. One thing I want to remind everybody is that we are still continuing with our comprehensive land use plan meetings. We have a few of those coming up on Tuesday, January 24th, and also on Wednesday, January 25th. One's at the one on the 24th is at the Rec Center. On the 25th is on Coastal Alabama's campus. So want to make sure everybody knows about that, how important it is for people to participate in these meetings. This is about how Fairhope is going to grow into the future. And so it's really important that we hear from folks and hear what their vision is for Fairhope. So that, and also want to remind everybody about Arbor Day on February 12th. It will also be on Coastal Alabama's campus, and hope everybody will join us for that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Next up, we have Chief Ellis is going to introduce his new board and some award winners.
Thank you, Council. The beginning of the month, we had our annual elections for the fire department and our board of directors. I was reelected as a fire chief. Our assistant chiefs are David Thomas and Dalton Combs in the back. Our treasurer is Mark Palucci. He's also in the back. And secretary is Chris Weinberg. Each year we do several different awards at the end of the year to recognize our firefighters. Our top responders for 2021 were Chris Weinberg with 470 calls out of 1,197. Dakota Ackerman had 500, and Thomas Elliott had 696.
Whoa.
They were our most active firefighters. Our rookie of the year for the year is Leslie Sewell. And a new award that we did this year, we looked at our firefighters, and this gentleman, he was good to begin with, but he took it to another level and stepped it up. And our most improved firefighter for 2021 was Joe Bragg. And then our big award, with the firefighter receives an axe for this, is our firefighter of the year. This gentleman he functions as one of our captains, our Station 3 captain. He put together a fundraiser to help with costs for some of our retired firefighters. You know, if they need help with things, and just our firefighter of the year for 2021 was Adam Hall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
Palucci's a little suspect, but other than that, so we're good.
We all think so.
Seriously, guys, thank you all for everything y'all do. We are very appreciative of it. All right. Next up on the list is public participation for agenda items, which would be numbers 9 through 27. So if you have anything on 9 through 27, now's your opportunity to speak. And Skip, you're here on the ordinance number 9?
Yeah, do you?
I'll let you speak at that time. Thank you. All right, seeing no comments, I'll go on to council comments. Councilman Burrell?
I think I'll maybe follow up on comments from the work session about budgeted items and spending. And I know that the cost of goods has gone up, and sometimes that impacts you. Our budget is small, and sometimes it's great. And I just want to keep it at our, keep it in mind that, whenever we can, be flexible to serve the citizens and make them happy, but there's going to be times in which we can't afford items. And so that's some of the reasons that I do a little saber rattling this, just to make sure that we don't lose sight of the people's money. And that's the reason. I want people to know that we don't spend that money frivolously, and that we do question those expenses. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Martin? None? Councilman Boone?
No comment.
All right, I don't have any comment either. Moving right along. Item number 6 is a public hearing and ordinance to amend zoning ordinance 1253, request to rezone property of Percy Dale to R1 low density single family to HTD Highway Transition District. The property is generally located on the west side of Greeno Road, south of Carter Lane at 19327 Greeno Road, Fairhope, Alabama. Would someone like to?
I'll introduce the ordinance.
All right.
Thank you, council. This is a relatively, as simple as they come, zoning request. As y'all recall, Highway Transitional District is a new district within our zoning ordinance that was approved to include some soft commercial uses along our state highways that were not within the historic or as planned village centers or commercial nodes. So this property on the left is currently zoned R1, and the aerial on the right, there is a single building on the site right now that has been used as a single family residence. Just kind of went over what the intent of that highway transitional district was. This was, what do we do with the residential properties, single family, that didn't quite have a home on a state highway anymore? And you see quite a few of those, and B2 might be too intense. PUDs are for larger pieces of property, so we came up with HTD, and the Planning Commission did recommend. Staff recommended, and the Planning Commission agreed unanimously with a vote of 6-0 to recommend approval of this rezoning request. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Council, any questions for Hunter? Okay. All right, as this is a public hearing, is there anyone here who would like to speak about agenda item number 6? If you would like to speak on agenda item number 6, please come to the podium. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, this will lay over for 2 weeks unless you have any desire to move for immediate consideration. Seeing none, we'll let this lay over for 2 weeks. All right. Next, item number 7, which is a public hearing, ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance number 1253, request to zone the property of John Albert Watkins Jr., Hilliard Vaughn Street III, and Sunny Hill LLC, property to R2, medium density, single family, concurrent with annexation into the city of Fairhope. Property is generally located east of County Road 13, south of County Road 34, Fairhope, Alabama. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance? Okay. Hunter?
Thank you. This is currently unzoned property. We did originally receive a request to annex into the city with conditional annexation with initial zoning of PUD. I'll show you kind of how that evolution happened, but the request before you is a conditional annexation and with the initial zoning of R2. The properties are A and B, different owners right now, but they are originally the developer is Breland Homes, and this is adjacent to the piece of property the city purchased for the parkland just north of the airport. For reference, the aerial to the left shows it's the adjacent development of River Mill and Graythorn. I think most of that is Graythorn, but River Mill is there as well. Those lots are approximately the R2 size lots as well. Like I said, we did receive a plan unit development. As our council knows, that's really there to encourage innovation. When we really got to looking at the details, the only difference was a 5-foot setback other than R2. So we recommended and talked with the applicant that we really couldn't support this as a plan unit development, but we could get behind the R2. So we had this discussion at Planning Commission, and that's where we landed to recommend to council an R2 development instead of a PUD. For reference only, this was the site plan within the PUD that was submitted with the PUD. This is not, R2 zoning does not have a site plan or a master development plan with it. It is just the straight zoning. So the follow-up procedures for this would be coming with a preliminary plat that would lay out the lots and those sorts of things. And then we will compare it to the R2 zoning within the city. So the site plan may differ from this. We'd worked through some of the details here. So like the central green for the green space was added just during our reviews of PUD, but when we kind of came down to look at how homes could fit on there, we thought R2 was best. So we did recommend approval of this with 2 conditions. Regardless of phasing, a traffic study shall be provided that includes all traffic generated by Greenfields was the PUD, with the first application for a preliminary plat. Fairhope Water and Sewer provided availability letters, but connections to those existing infrastructure, including routes and potential upgrades, shall be approved by the Water and Sewer Superintendent prior to submittal of a preliminary plat. We did recommend that approval. Planning Commission unanimously agreed with that recommendation with a vote of 6-0. If y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Council, any questions for Hunter on this?
Hunter, was there, if you go back to the picture, so that was just conceptual, right? This is the PUD, and so the setbacks are a little bit greater with R2?
Yes.
Okay. And I do see the question answered. I was wondering if there was any connectivity to the neighborhood to the southeast, and it looks like that there is.
Yes, and stub streets to the north and south, where you see the other fields around that could be developed in the future.
Did you receive objections from the residents of that neighborhood?
We did. They might be here tonight. I haven't looked around. We did see there was one of the family members is farmer and did have some very valid concerns, and I really don't know how to address the crops being, crop dusters, how, planting a subdivision right in the middle of two fields, that creates problems for them.
Was there any objection to the connectivity? I think that they might both take advantage of each other, depending on which direction you're going.
Yes, I believe you're right. And I think Lisa would agree. We've had at least fielded some requests from residents of Miller's Crossing and Graythorn to be annexed into the city. We couldn't do that because they're not contiguous. So this, while not everyone at once, allows that domino effect.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Okay. Council, any other questions before I open up the public hearing? Thank you, Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody here to discuss item number 7? This is your opportunity. All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, any interest in moving for immediate consideration on this, or are we going to let this lay over 2 weeks? Okay, let it go. All right, moving on. Item number 8 is a public hearing, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance number 1253. It's a request to amend ordinance number 1596 and to rename the property of Burgess A. Thomason Jr., a planned unit development known as Thomason PUD, to Montrose Preserve PUD. The property is generally located on the west side of US Highway 98 from the south side of Adams Street to just south of Ledyard Street, Fairhope, Alabama. Guys, anybody want to introduce the ordinance?
I'll introduce the ordinance.
All right, ordinance has been introduced. Hunter?
Okay. Thank you. And before I really get into this, I kind of want to give a prelude to this project to the council explicitly. This is a PUD, and I think what I want to focus on is the end result of the PUD. I think it is a great solution on a piece of property that's been looked at for years on what to do with. And I think what you'll see through that, there's going to be some questions that are not answered within the PUD, but I think the PUD locks up a lot of the concerns and provides some solutions if those were not able to come to fruition. So this is a PUD that was approved in 2017, and it approved 77 lots, and this amendment proposes 18. So a reduction from 77 single-family lots to 18 single-family lots, all within the same 53.94 acres. The properties on the zoning map are shown in light blue. These are adjacent to Greeno Road, and the aerials are on the left. The existing site plan is shown on the screen. That there's some unique historic right-of-ways that were never opened throughout much of the site, and it removes those and creates a central drive that comes in and accesses the 77 lots. So the proposal that was brought to us and the questions were, what if creating that road was going to be really expensive no matter how you did it, and that there's some topography issues. So how can you work with the land to create larger lots that are more in line with the historic Montrose area? So this was the proposed or the result of conversations stemming from the originally proposed, And what's being proposed here is basically R1 size lots minimum. The stats on and the specifications on those would be R1, but most of them are much larger. And one of the main issues here is access. How are those accessed? So without being able to see this large plan, which anything I tried to do on the screen was very tough, there is no intent, it actually explicitly states it on the plan within the ordinance, that there will be no connections to the existing roads within Montrose. So Key Third Avenue does have, but each of those, there's a will not proceed past this point kind of language. But it's how to make this happen. This is where the unknown answer is. We know what we want the end result to be, but these historic road or right-of-ways shown on this screen are currently Baldwin County Highway Department right-of-ways. Never been improved. The city has annexed the properties all around that. So right now we're in this little bit of who's the authority and what can we do there. There are many options. They could stay in the county. They can be vacated by the county to the residents. The city can take them over. We can vacate them and split. That's kind of the plan we show here, and it just becomes a private road. Or we can keep the right-of-ways but come with a private road agreement where the residents of this development maintain that. So while we know what the end goal is, how we get there needs to be finessed, and conversations with the county have already been started. So we can do that, and that will have to be hashed out before this comes in for preliminary plat and approved. So there may be a chance, if this PUD is approved, we're back in front of you discussing the right-of-ways before we get to the Planning Commission and that preliminary plat. So, there was a lot of conversations during the approval of that 77 lots. And I think we've addressed all of the concerns that were brought up then within this plan. I think the one kind of lingering thing that we'll have to figure out through preliminary plat is where they're accessing from Greeno. So that's something that AlDOT is working on. The applicant might have some new information on that. But basically, building heights are a little different. It's 35 feet instead of 30. Lot coverage is limited to 40%, and there's some restrictions on their walls and fences that's not in our zoning ordinance. But other than that, they follow the setbacks and requirements of R1. I said, and I'm, kind of went through most of the notes there. I'm glancing just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Garbage and recycling will be provided by the city of Fairhope. It's Fairhope water. It's Fairhope sewer, but it's actually Daphne water there. That'll have to meet the codes for the preliminary plat. Powers, Riviera, and AT&T for communications. So we did talk about green space. The highlighted was a green space buffer. And there's a condition in here you'll see, but they've actually amended the plans that you see as an exhibit within the ordinance. So Greeno Road actually had a larger buffer, and it's explicit what the buffer is. It will be a screening of plants that will be maintained by the HOA. So that's been brought into this plan as well. There's a visual buffer by where the cemetery is along Lot 1. And one of I'm going to go back because it's color coded. So the dark green area in the lower portion of the screen is green space. That's also, it's floodway, wetland, anything you can think of there. It's low area. And I just want to mention that when this PUD was approved, there was a conversation. It was all the way up to city council. It was viewed as that would be under a conservation easement. And at the last meeting, it was determined that's not really a part of zoning, it being a conservation easement. When we lock it into common area, that is under our ordinances it's a protection and locked in that way. So that doesn't prevent this from being placed into a conservation easement, but that, just want to make that distinction, because that was really one of the only differences that we didn't address from the concerns in 2017, in my opinion. So lots 1 through 9, they did exist, but when we've kind of added this strip, the lots will have to, because the 40-foot buffer along Greeno, we want that to be in common area that's maintained. So that will actually, when the preliminary plat comes in, the lots will have to tweak a little bit. So basically all 18 lots will need to be on the preliminary plat. And we want that preliminary plat to show all the information. So while we're getting out of the way here and letting some things get worked out, the preliminary plat shall show if there's drainage required, if there's utility improvements, any of those things, the access from the highway, how the road, where it will be located, what instrument will that be, with whether it's an easement or a vacation. So all those things will need to be addressed during the preliminary plat. The staff did recommend approval of the Montrose PUD amendment with a list of conditions. I'm going to read them one time. If there's no questions, I won't next time we see this if it gets carried over. But number 1, a preliminary plat shall be required that includes the entire acreage. At minimum, the preliminary plat shall provide street access to each of the 18 lots and be in substantial conformance with the street layout as proposed on the master site plan. The preliminary plat shall be approved by the Fairhope Planning Commission prior to issuance of any building permits for any property located within the PUD. Street access to every lot shall be determined and approved by the authority having jurisdiction prior to submitting for preliminary plat or building permits. Access from US 98 shall be approved by ALDOT, and any required improvements shall be installed solely at the developer's expense. Access from Main Street shall be approved by Baldwin County Highway Department, and any required improvements shall be installed solely at the developer's expense. If street access in substantial conformance of the proposed site plan cannot be achieved within 2 years, the approved PUD shall revert to the Montrose PUD approved in Ordinance 1956. The 2-year time frame may be extended only by the City Council. So basically saying if they can't get these things worked out, it doesn't sit on the shelf forever. It reverts back to the 77 lot, can be extended by the City Council. 40-foot buffer shall be required on any lot abutting 98. The area within the buffer shall be common area. The buffers shown on the plans and those required by condition shall remain natural, except for the allowance of plant materials to be installed where a visual buffer does not exist. Where a visual buffer does not exist within the buffer area shown on the plan or required by condition of approval, plant materials shall be installed to provide a visual barrier. Any item not specifically outlined in the PUD ordinance shall meet all pertinent regulations in ordinance, including but not limited to those outlined in R1. All streets, whether public or private, shall be approved by the City of Fairhope Public Works Director. Connections to existing utility infrastructure shall be determined prior to the application for preliminary plat. Any outside agency permits shall be obtained prior to submission of building permit applications. That's the way that should read. I did miss something earlier, just to flip back on the plan to clarify. I think I said all lots will be accessed from 98. It's not quite true. The 3 lots here are accessed from Main Street with a singular drive coming in. That's right in the curve, kind of a strange right-of-way, but where that curve is, but one driveway coming in inside the lots and then shared once they get inside the private property. That's a lot. If y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
18, I'm looking at it, I mean, we talked about 14 and 13 and access there, and I'm trying to figure out how,
This one?
how the very, yeah.
Yeah.
Little piece of pie.
They're gonna have to work out their own private ingress from 98. So
That's what Al got, right?
that's how it
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, that's what
Yep.
that doesn't seem, so if that doesn't get, if that doesn't get worked out, what I'm hearing correctly is it revert back to the 77, if they can't work this out.
Hunter, a couple of things. I see some mention of the planning commission approving the plat, and when you approve a PUD, you know, the beauty of the PUD, or supposedly the beauty of the PUD, is that, you know, it's a complete separate zoning from any other zoning.
Right.
It's unique in all of the city. And to approve it, you know, we can impose, or they don't have to accept it, but if we approve it, we can impose basically the way we want even the plat to look. Even going so far as to saying what you can put in there. So why are we being asked to approve a PUD and then a plat would be approved later? That seems a little bit backwards to me. I don't like having a bunch of open-ended, you know, questions and then approving a PUD and then being allowed to go in and maybe change something which was, you know, outside of the intent of the city council that approved the zoning. And then that's one comment or question. The second is, you know, a lot of these, or several of these lots, 3, 4, 5 to be exact, are abutted against the Rock Creek drainage basin. And sure enough, as soon as those lots start falling in the creek, they're going to come to the city and say, hey, we need y'all to fix this. My lot's falling in the creek. I mean, we're going to have any language in there that says we're not responsible, and unless, of course, there's something we did to cause that. But the act of approving this doesn't make us responsible for the erosion that's going to certainly happen in the future.
Right. No, we have, so backing up on the PUD is the vision, if you will. And we have every authority to be able to require anything we want before we approve a PUD, for the most part. We can require traffic studies at this point. We can require, you know, drainage studies if we need to. That's not typically what we've done in the past. That has been approving an idea, and because it's getting the zoning right and then follow up with the phases through preliminary plat or MOPs or whatever those are that will look at the technical merits and do those studies. So when that's pretty typical to have the PUD and then the preliminary plat follow. So the preliminary plat wouldn't be any different from this. But you're right, there's only a single-family residential use here.
Well, if we don't approve the plat as part of the PUD, then I'm not saying it would ever happen, but it leaves open the possibility of them coming back to the planning commission, and we've already approved the zoning, and then, you know, the development looks different than what we had envisioned it looking.
And that is the tough thing. So any PUD that doesn't come, I mean, I take one down the road that was a commercial one. It had, you know, it didn't specify exactly what was happening on each lot.
And it started changing, and they wanted to change it again, and we can make more money if we do this and that, and that's the example I'm thinking of.
So that doesn't happen without coming back and amending this PUD with the city council. So that if their preliminary plat matches the way you approve it, and we can add additional conditions, but if the preliminary plat doesn't match that, then they would have to come and amend. And I'll tell you, there is some language in there that the planning director can approve things is not within substantial conformance. I'm getting real hesitant to do those because I'm getting those requests a lot. So especially when I don't think it's meeting the intent of what the approval was, even if it might seem minor to some. So
would it be wise to put in a statement that they can't have any, I don't know how you would word this properly, but any real material changes to the preliminary plat that has been put forth before us? And I'd like to also see some language absolving the city of any liability to future erosion, and that's steep right there.
That's very, and this is what, you know, so the topography is there, you got the home there, and we're on a basis of what you're putting in front of us now. If they can't figure out something, a resident that owns that particular, this whole thing changes, but I don't know what that looks like from there's no comparison that I can see to say, okay, if this changes to 77, what does that look like to the citizens in this area? Or what does that do to the citizens in this area? If they can't get the roads from 18 to 77, that's a huge difference.
And here's
than what
how
we're
I
working with
would,
right here.
here's how I'm looking at that, and Councilman, you and I weren't here when this was approved. So, it took quite a bit of time to go figure out and read through all those meeting minutes, because those 77 lots took quite a long time to get approved. And what I was looking at in my minutes is the group that was here opposed ultimately wound up and said, that's a good plan. Now, I think if the worst case scenario is we go back to something that everybody agreed was a good plan, then we're okay. But I think getting 18 lots instead of 77 might make that neighborhood even happier if it can work out. So
I think so too, but his point is reverting back to the fact that it could revert back to a 77 unit
Right.
subdivision
That's the problem. That's
is
what I have.
is a problem.
I have a problem with that personally, that language. I
I mean, if they wanted us to amend it, maybe the language could say it'll revert back to what it was prior to the former PUD being approved.
that's where we get in, if you just go R1, that's the default. So that could be more lots without a plan approved to tie into it.
Was it R1 or was it
It
unzoned
was
prior?
unzoned, but I think I believe our catch-all is R1. Sorry?
I'd rather revert back to R1 than 77.
There's, the good thing about both of those are they're site plan driven. So even the 77 is a specific site plan. If you go just to R1, then you're going to planning commission only. Are they meeting then it's just a preliminary plat. So with a site plan and a PUD, it's always coming to the council to amend that PUD.
But 77 had a density of what, or what? The prior PUD, the existing PUD, I guess it's been approved, but the 77 sites is a density of what, though?
53 acres, I forget what it was
77.
exactly. So, I mean, it wasn't, see if it was, I don't think it was on here. And Larry Chasen is here, David Dill's here with SE Civil, so they might be able to answer those questions. But I would be more fearful of just straight R1 in this scenario than having a site plan approved that has been vetted. At least, it is 77 lots, but it went through a couple of years to get approved. And addressed explicitly some of the concerns, whereas R1 may not.
Honey, you said the sewer, the only thing Fairhope's got is the sewer?
That's all right.
Is there any of the water follow the sewer? Is there a reason we don't not have?
Yeah, this is one of those unique areas around town where Daphne water actually comes into our city limits. And, I don't know that about this. It's been a challenge to subdivide some of those lots in Montrose because they only have a 2-inch water line. So they can't meet fire hydrant, for new lots. That's been a challenge. So it is a unique scenario. I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. I know Jason would rather see our water there, with the sewer right there adjacent.
I would too.
It would make more sense for it all to be the same utility, but those jurisdictions are kind of drawn in. It's where you cross lines. So if Daphne were to come to us or agree that they don't want this, I think we'd certainly explore the option if we could do it. But I think they get first dibs.
Council, any more questions before I open the public hearing? All right. If you're here to discuss item number 8, now is your opportunity. Please step forward to the podium and state your name and address.
Good evening. David Deal with SE Civil. Just to reiterate, the approved PUD has the 77 lots. Basically, the plan you're looking at is the configuration of the lots 60, 80 years ago. There were 3, each one of these blocks was divided into 3 large parcels. So that's kind of what we were going back to. Originally, we had assumed that the former PUD had expired, so we would just be back to these large 3-acre lots. And then we found out that the expiration clause in your ordinance didn't come into play at that time. So that's something that changed later. So we still have the approved PUD, but we really just want it back like it was. Understanding the concerns of some of the neighbors and their concern about all these right-of-ways being opened up and interconnected and traffic, we worked with the planning staff about specifying on the plan what street right-of-ways that we would not access. Obviously, we can't tell anybody else not to because they belong to the county, but we, as far as what we're doing here, we will not access those right-of-ways. The 3 lots to the north, we're just continuing 3rd Street down for those. And because of the concerns of the neighbors, we're going to try to keep that minimal. We're going to try to keep it on the east side, the east 33 feet of the 66 feet, not touch the west 33 feet. The lots in the middle, there was really no option but to access 98. We did talk to AlDOT. They would rather us not line up with Rock Creek's right-of-way entrance. So we moved it down to Taylor, which they're fine with. We can get a right in, right out there. So that gives us access to the remaining lots. You're right about the lots down there backing, and, you know, we can increase those rear setbacks or whatever we need to do. And as far as the 3 lots fronting on Main Street, there was actually a plat approved back at that time for 3 lots fronting Main Street, which nothing was ever done with that, so it did expire. So I reached out to the county highway department about a single access there that would serve all 3 of those lots, which they emailed me back and said that's their preference. They're fine with that. Other than that, I think the only details we're talking about here that need to be worked out for preliminary plat are obviously an actual permit from AlDOT, an actual permit from the county, and then the actual design of the roads. Other than that, I mean, I don't see any changes to this plan.
So do you mind us removing that language about the 77
That it would revert back to R1?
or 77 lots?
Well,
That's my language.
Yeah.
In other words, just take the reversion clause out. In other words, if you get this approved, this is what you got.
And
Would
just
you be okay with that?
not have an expiration on this at all.
Right, not have an expiration.
it's fine with us.
Sorry. I'm
Okay.
through and
Anything else?
No, sir.
Chris?
Thanks, Council. There was some legal reasons we included that based on what it would revert back to. There's also some language in there that would allow you to extend the PUD for additional time if they needed additional time to meet the requirements. But if they met the conditions, the PUD, if y'all would approve it, would be in its form approved. So the question is reverting back to the 77 if they aren't able to get access. Is that the concern? Am I understanding correctly? You'd rather it revert to R1 instead of the PUD that was previously approved?
Well, I think that, you know, we're trying to listen to Hunter's concerns. We were just trying to avoid any reversion back to 77 because 18 in our mind is much more preferred than 77.
So, and I think Chris, under the conditions of the master development agreement section of the subdivision regulations is where we put that sunset clause. So on a case-by-case basis, can the council revoke that clause?
Or they can continue it.
Yeah, but that's going to require people to keep coming back voluntarily. They can sit and not, just by in effect, not coming back to council, let it expire. So could that clause be?
Let us look at that, because that was the concern. The sunset provision now, after 2 years, would expire, then it would automatically revert to something that's different than both of these preferable options.
Does that sunset clause apply to every zoning application or just certain ones? Because, once again, this is just its own zoning application, and it should stand on its own merit, I would think.
We'll look at
That
that.
was
I believe it's
just-
particular for PUDs, though.
That is, yes. That was when we introduced the master development.
And it wasn't
plan.
originally, as Mr. Deal said, it only came into existence within the past year or two, the sunset provision. And so the original PUD didn't expire because the sunset provision wasn't in, and then it passed. And so now there is a sunset provision.
And I personally like those sunset provisions, but maybe not this one, which, that's the beauty of a PUD, they're all unique.
But if we can look at the solution of just removing it altogether, if council can improve it later, I don't know why they couldn't put it in as part of the condition now. But let me look at that.
Well, we don't know what the council's gonna do in the future either, so we control what we can control. We just look at it.
And would it help if the developer agrees to waiving the sunset provision?
I think we could certainly look at that too and make sure
Okay.
that that's taken care of.
The public hearing is still open. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on this matter?
Hey, Debbie Quinn, 7172 Taylor Street, which is part of the dead end of their Taylor Street exit to the 4-lane at the moment. In the 1800s, they created a plat with because it was a, grid plat. But then the 4-lane came in and just obliterated kind of the grid plat. And everybody keeps talking about the historic plat of Montrose. And you can't continue that plat that was there because of all these existing grid roads that we've talked about that run through this property and have not been gotten rid of. So we started conversations in 2019 with the county to give those right-of-ways to the city. I don't know why when we annexed the PUD, we didn't annex the right-of-ways. There's several. I won't go through all of them, but anyway, this particular, the Taylor Street that comes off the 4-lane that AlDOT said that they would prefer, would dead end at our street that comes off Main Street. So I don't know what you do, because there's no land will exist between the two roads. It'll be all asphalt. And so they'll just keep coming. Even if there's a sign up or a barricade up or something along Taylor Street, our road is 13 or 14 feet wide. That's it. You cannot pass a car. We've got 4 or 5 historic trees on the road. You do not want to widen it because you would have to, impact those trees, and I don't think you want to do that either. So we're real concerned about access, and I'd hate to see this PUD continue without some of those resolutions. I think we're all worried that, he'll come back and we don't know. I think Larry has been very upfront and helpful to us. In the beginning, when he started this, all the accesses were going to be open. It was business professional, it was apartments, it was single-family houses, and we negotiated it down to the 77. And we thought at the time that was the best we could ever get. That's why we agreed to it. We figured that was, and all the right-of-ways were closed. And here we're back. I've got about 5 or 6 neighbors here, real concerned about Taylor and 3rd. And then 2nd also opens to that, which all funnel into Taylor Street. So I know I've talked to Hunter a lot of times. He's probably tired of me. But, he said, well, be happy it's 18. And I said, yeah, but everybody's got 3 or 4 cars now. It's not like 18 cars, And with a 13-foot right-of-way, it's very difficult. So we would prefer it to stay in a PUD and not go to a subdivision if you do get rid of the clause, just because that means it comes back to you and we have an opportunity. If it goes to a subdivision, then it just goes to planning and zoning and, one gavel and it's done. So a PUD has a lot more flexibility for us, and I think for Larry, who's the representative of the family who owns the property. So I want to thank Larry, because otherwise I wouldn't have known about tonight's meeting. He was very kind to tell me it was tonight. So I want to thank my neighbors for coming out, too. It was last minute. We found out Friday night. So thank you. I appreciate your concerns, and we also have those concerns. I mean, we got houses selling in our neighborhood for over $1 million, and you just, you know, that's your whole livelihood going into a house, and you hate to see that, you know, with traffic off a 4-lane. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully I can help a little bit. First of all, let me say that as to Ms. Quinn's concerns, when this plat comes in and this road that comes off of 98 at Taylor, we can flare that road and we can create a triangle of property that will absolutely forever and forever end any possibility of that road continuing down Taylor Street to Main Street. So that's an easy fix for us. Look better, everything there's good. As far as staying under the PUD, we're fine. Talk, you know, to Hunter's been very helpful, very cooperative. I understand completely that if you go back to R1, it opens up a bunch of possibilities, whereas we're very confident what we want. I'm not saying that, for example, the PUD, and it's not up there, but I just go ahead. One of the potential purchases here is by Dr. Booth to buy an entire block. He has no desire to do anything with it. I wouldn't doubt that he would want to come back at some time to alter this PUD to take away the road that Fairhope wants us to show if we're going to show 3 lots. So we got to show the road because we got 3 lots, but the minute that he buys the property, he's going to want the road to go away because he has no need for it. So that'll be an amendment I'm just thinking could potentially, so I don't want y'all to say that, you know, what we've got here is what we want, and we're hoping that common sense prevails, that 18 lots are certainly better. Where can you go on the Eastern Shore and buy a 2 to 3 acre lot? These lots will have great demand. The Thomasons will not be developers, they are landowners. So whenever that developer appears to put in these roads and these utilities and all, if he wanted to come and ask for a modification that makes sense, then certainly we'd like for him to have the opportunity to do that and not be that we're trying to get one thing passed and then change it. We want 18 lots, big lots. We want a nice private little lane in there, just like the entire village of Montrose is today. So we're trying to put together as close as you can say to making everybody happy. But the owners are happy. We want the city to be happy. We want planning to be happy. We want public works to be happy. We want the utility department to be happy. We just need to get on with something that's now in its 120th year of being platted and its 3rd generation of ownership, and it's just time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else want to address the council at this time?
Sorry, I have a question for our council. If we took away the sunset clause, or if the developer agreed to take it away themselves, does that change the ordinance materially enough that you have to go through a whole nother process of reintroducing it at the next meeting? And I don't think it does, but I just want to make sure that you're not putting an undue hardship on anybody by changing something.
It's how we've advertised.
Yeah, we were just discussing, I mean, if you're striking a condition, I don't know that that would materially change the PUD and the ordinance itself. If you were adding conditions, I mean, we'd have to, I'm gonna have to talk about that.
And then if we had language that stated that these lots will stay as they are now, I'm not talking about roads and all, but the lots would stay as they are now. That way the council's not surprised by any replatting When it goes to planning commission, that's not material either, is it? Because
I don't think that's even necessary. I mean, I think that's part of what's being proposed now. as
That
part
is
of
a
the PUD.
condition right now, and I want to clarify that, because what would happen if the request came in by the time they went to preliminary plat, and they said, we actually only want 14 lots instead of 18? Because one person bought 3 of them and wanted to plat them all into one lot that would be that way forever.
Yeah, either way, 14 or 26. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we don't want a surprise like that, right?
I mean, are you saying 14 would be a surprise too?
Yeah, anyway, any material change to what we're seeing there. I'm not saying it wouldn't be better, but if you're gonna view it one way, you have to view it both ways.
I mean, can we not put in there not to exceed 18 lots?
That's
So that-
typically
that-
what we do.
I
If it's
mean-
not, with even MLPs, we allow kind of administratively
Yeah,
less.
but you know what, though, see, the danger of that is you could say 18 and you could have, 12 big lots and 6 tiny lots too. I mean,
No, we wouldn't. The lots, the way the layout would work wouldn't change. The only thing in that sense, if somebody bought 3 by the time we got to planning commission and wanted to erase that road there and merge it with another existing lot, that would be something I would, probably entertain, but not realigning every property line. So just kind of where I'm thinking on that. Because I think that would offer actually protection meeting the intent of the PUD. If we're heading in that direction and reducing lot sizes.
But I don't like the language of can't be more than 18 lots, because not saying they would ever do it, I don't think it'd be a good business move either, but that leaves it open to drawing lot lines any way you want to get 18.
Well, we're site plan driven, so that they can, this site plan and that first condition, access to each lots and be of substantial conformance. And now we could add, that's kind of in our existing PUD language, and what can be changed is the substantial conformance.
Make them out of mullet.
I do want to kind of address one question here, because I think there might have been some understanding on Taylor. We can't, the way this is drawn here, it's a 66-foot paper right-of-way is what we're talking about on these historic right-of-ways. And what we'd actually like to see is a vacation of that. In that vacation, the property that the Thompsons own, they would get a shot at 33 feet, and the residents that are existing would get 33 feet. So there would be a 33-foot buffer that the existing residents would own. If they wanted to leave the trees there, plant new trees. So the idea that there's pavement touching pavement on Taylor is not the vision that's being presented. So I just want to clarify. And it actually, if the vacation can happen, it can actually be in control of those people to ensure that it'll never be.
I think that's what I'm hearing from the public, is that there needs to be conditions or language incorporated in this that allows that to be true, manifest, where it never could happen, period. It's a win-win.
I think we've accomplished that.
Win-win here.
Yeah.
So if this accomplishes that, then, and that's not possible for that to happen, that the community is concerned about, if the language is there, then I think that's what they're concerned about.
Sure.
To where they cannot change the language, or it cannot happen when we die.
Well, now, I mean, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because any PUD can ever, that's going to be future, council to have to make those decisions. That's a PUD that comes in front of you today, having that stance of saying, nope, we approved it one time. Don't matter if that matched the time then or now. Yeah. On just so if you notice, part of the right-of-way is in that area as well. Requiring the county to put a right-of-way in a conservation easement is a challenge.
And there's no way for those right-of-ways to be given, or we don't want those right-of-ways?
I think everything's on the table. There has to be two parties. One has to be willing to give them.
Permanently declare that you could never do that would be
Well, it sounds like what they're proposing is consistent with what avoids the concerns that were addressed if it works out the way we're planning. And so hopefully,
Yeah.
it sounds like there are concerns, but everybody still is on the same page, going in the same direction. So hopefully, this plays out that way. Council, anybody got any more questions or concerns right now to address? Public hearing has been closed. Please.
Since it's been introduced, it needs to lay over for 2 weeks.
Sure.
If you could do that and let the city and whoever else wants to work with the county to try and figure out what the county is thinking on these roads and right-of-ways or whatever, because I think they've started some conversations, but they haven't worked out the mechanism to give the city the right-of-ways, and then y'all determine if you're going to keep the right-of-ways or get rid of the right-of-ways or whatever you're going to do. And we'd really like to know that for Taylor Street and for Third and for Second and maybe a few others before y'all really gavel this thing in, because that's our major issue.
Sure.
Also, Planning Commission also passed that the green space, where Rock Creek is, would be a preserve. And I don't know I tried to Google it and I couldn't find it in your planning documents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't think there's any intention not to let it lay over 2 weeks. I do think you are being very optimistic in thinking that anything can be worked out between us and the county in those 2 weeks. But yes.
Sometimes it's just, so there is a fear, if you will, of there not being an approved plan when we take over the city. These are right-of-ways that have not been open for a reason. You know, the city doesn't particularly want to be responsible for opening those, nor do I think the county does. So if we have a PUD plan in place, that's what the 77 lot one was. It was a plan in place that had a conflict with a historic right-of-ways. This plan locks it in. So if the PUD's in approval, I think we can move forward with that acceptance of those right-of-ways without fear. So there's some protection I think we're offering to the city by presenting it this way. And we'll certainly, Richard, I don't know if you've talked to anybody recently, but I don't think the county's going to have any qualms with, giving the city these right-of-ways.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Hunter.
Yes.
Oh, one more.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sabrina Ruffin, and I live at 23679 3rd Street. And I am the house right across the street from the historical cemetery. And kind of like Debbie was talking, our roads right now are, you said 12 feet? I'll go with that, maybe. So we can all pass each other. So my question is, and I'm not opposed to the development. My question is if the PUD is approved where it says no access, but then, and the various different points where it says no access, but then the plat comes for approval. Is that no access, is that subject to amendment when the plat comes up? Or is that, because the PUD was approved, now that's a hard position? That's a material change?
That's what I was asking about, what can you do after the fact is approved, and
That's why they're supposed to, we're going to let them decide later.
Yeah.
No, my position is that the PUD is approved and it's an ordinance passed by council. So if a preliminary plat comes in that contradicts that, the PUD would have to be amended and come back to council to get approval for a preliminary plat that contradicts the PUD. So if the preliminary plat comes in contradicting the site plan, that would be a material change, in my opinion, that would have to come back before you to get approval before the plat could be approved.
Does that help you understand? So, in theory, under this scenario, anything could be changed, but it couldn't be changed without coming back before us and specifically requesting that change be made.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
And my expectation, in my mind, is if it's being approved in this way, there'd have to be a really, really good reason to make a material change to that after the fact.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Item number 9, which is an ordinance amending ordinance number 1551, specifically Chapter 2, Article 3, Boards and Committees, Section 2-181, Mission of the Historic Preservation Committee.
I'm going to introduce that for you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. The ordinance has been introduced, and I'm going to invite Mr. Skip Jones to come up and give the council a brief rundown of this change.
Thank you, Jay. I've been involved with the historic preservation effort for about 20 years off and on now, and we've determined, particularly in the last 4 or 5 years, that the city is not ready to adopt a historic preservation ordinance, which would be a requirement under the state law before we could have historic preservation districts and enforce any historic preservation measures. So the currently constituted committee has decided to amend our mission from being solely to adopt a historic preservation ordinance, which we, as I said, have found it difficult to do. We now would like to revise our mission statement in the city to this. I'll read it if you want me to. I think you have it in front of you.
We do have it in front of us. Go ahead, Skip, sorry.
The Fairhope Historic Preservation Committee shall engage in a wide range of activities that support preservation of important historical, cultural, and architectural sites and structures in Fairhope. Activities include public outreach and education about preservation, providing information about state and national incentives for preservation, and helping interested residents and building owners secure tax credits and protections accorded to appropriately documented and registered historic properties. We think this is a more realistic approach for the committee to work on now, and would like for you all to approve that amendment.
Thank you, Skip. I agree. I was at least one of these meetings where this was discussed, and this seems to be a very reasonable idea, good idea to help sort of expand the purpose of the Historic Preservation Committee, give them more opportunities to have an impact in the community outside of just an ordinance. And so I fully support this. I think it's a great idea that they're doing it.
I'd like to make one other comment, and that is, I don't think our committee wants to preclude the opportunity to advance the movement toward an ordinance, but we want the community to be fully in support of it, and we think this new mission statement will move us toward that support.
Correct. I agree. Council, any questions on this particular topic?
No, Skip, I think this is great, because I think for a while there, historic preservation was drifting like a log in a river for a while there. And now I think this gives you guys purpose and foundation to where you can take steps forward now. When I read this, coming to a lot of meetings, coming to your house and speaking to you, I think this is excellent.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Skip.
Thank you.
Rather than trying to advise us on creation of a commission. What's that, right?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Skip. All right, guys, we'll let this lay over 2 weeks. All right, hope you got your shoes laced up as we're really about to start getting moving. Number 10 is a resolution that all bids for the metal office building for the water and wastewater department are hereby rejected due to bids considered over budget, and authorizes to rebid the project due to budgetary constraints.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right. Item number 11 is a resolution that the City Council approves the selection of Sawgrass Consulting LLC to perform professional engineering services for the athletic track and additional parking at the Founders Park project, and hereby authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to negotiate a fee schedule and establish a not-to-exceed limit with this firm.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Council, any discussion?
Yes, if we select them, are they going to be doing the professional services on the design of the track itself? I mean, I was asking earlier about, could we have somebody that constructs the track provide the professional services as part of the package deal?
And I think that was something that the mayor was going to look into before.
And they'd be looking into it if we pass this resolution.
Well, but I mean, this gives her the opportunity to discuss and negotiate that, but it doesn't require that she.
It has to come back.
Yeah.
So I will do the all.
outside of that concern, any other questions, comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay,
Okay, motion passes.
for the record, because I think we should have explored the other option before we passed this.
My expectation is that those will be explored, but your objection is noted. Next on the agenda is item number 12, which is a resolution that the city of Fairhope has voted to purchase one Vector 2100i vacuum truck or equivalent for the sewer department, and the equipment is available for direct procurement through the Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative contract with Sansom Equipment Company, which has been nationally bid and therefore does not have to be let out for bid. The cost is not to exceed $428,113. And this was approximately $13,000 over the original budgeted price. Just for those of you watching, all of these items were discussed in the work session. Council, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Item number 13 is a resolution that the city of Fairhope has voted to purchase one lateral launcher Orion L zoom navigating pan and tilt push camera for the wastewater department, and the equipment is available for direct procurement through the Sourcewell contract. Vacuum Truck Sales and Services LLC, which has been nationally bid and therefore does not have to be let out for bid. The cost is not to exceed $84,980. Boom, that's how you read it. And that is about $4,800 over budget. Again, Jason briefed us on this during the work session. Council, I entertain a motion on this.
I'll move for the purchase. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Council, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Item number 14 is a resolution that the City Council approves hiring Dewberry Engineers, Inc. for professional engineering services for the award of RFQ PS 006-22 consent order quarterly reports for calendar year 2022. Estimated fee is $2,000 per report, and authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to execute an agreement not to exceed $10,000. This agreement will be renegotiated in FY 2023.
I'll move to approve the hiring.
I've got a motion and a second. Council, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. All right, item number 15 is a resolution that the City Council approves professional consultant J&M Display, now doing business as Pyro Productions, Inc., negotiated fees for the design and production of fireworks display for FY 2022, and authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to enter into an agreement with J&M Display, now DBA Pyro Productions, Inc., for a not-to-exceed amount of $40,000. And again, this was an increase of $8,000 over the originally budgeted price. Council, I'll entertain a motion on this.
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 16 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope has voted to approve an annual fire truck inspections and testing to Sunbelt Fire, Inc. as sole source distributor, and authorizes procurement based on the option allowed by the Code of Alabama 1975, Section 41-1651, paren 13, close paren. The cost is not to exceed $15,135. Council, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Council, any discussion? And again, this is an annual inspection that we are required to do without much choice on the matter.
I think it's all the fires.
Yeah. So I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 17 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope approves procurement of storm damage repair and roof repainting on Fairhope Avenue water tank to Utility Services Company, Inc. due to the AT&T cell tower damage from Hurricane Sally. Utility Services Company, Inc. will need to complete this work to keep the city's 15-year warranty for the exterior coating system that was part of the executed contract. The cost is not to exceed $44,969, and we do expect this to be reimbursed. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Council, any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next up is item number 18, which is a resolution that the city of Fairhope has voted to purchase one dump contractor body for existing Freightliner M2102 or equivalent for the water department, and the type of equipment needed is on the Alabama State Department of Purchasing bid list, and therefore does not need to be let out for bid. The cost is not to exceed $22,302.40.
Mr. Chairman, I vote for the purchase of the dump contractor body, but also to that resolution to add, remove said pickup from the budget.
Okay.
Second?
There was a pickup mentioned by Jason that he was removing from the budget, and I asked if it would be okay if we just put it in writing and remove it from the budget.
Correct. And just so the record is clear, what Councilman Burrell is discussing is that in a previous meeting, we discussed removing a pickup truck from the budget to add this, to replace with this contractor body. And we discussed that at that meeting, and I will recognize that the motion has been made to amend this to add in removal of that pickup truck from the budget.
I'll second the amendment.
Council-
Make a motion on the amended resolution.
So I've got a motion to amend, or just Jack's motion to approve.
It's actually agenda item number 19, and it was a trailer.
Well, but there's two separate things.
Okay.
My motion was for an amended resolution.
All right, so I've got a motion to amend the resolution to add deduction of the pickup truck from the budget. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. And then now I'll entertain a motion on the,
So moved.
okay.
Second?
So I've got a motion and a second on the amended resolution. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay.
Just for clarity, I thought I was making a motion. I wasn't making a motion to amend, I was making a motion.
To approve
Yeah,
with an
I was
amendment.
making an amended,
Yeah.
because the resolution's not like we introduced.
That-
it,
that's-
it's making an amended resolution.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yeah. Either way, you covered it.
Okay.
You got it.
All right, so item number 19 is a resolution that the city of Fairhope has voted to purchase one 2021 Chevrolet 2500 HD Silverado or equivalent for the electric department, and the type of vehicle needed is on the Alabama State Department of Purchasing bid list, and therefore does not have to be let out for bid. The cost is not to exceed $51,291.45, which is approximately $21,000 over budget. In doing so, there is a trailer that is going to be removed from the budget to balance that out. I will entertain a motion, council.
I'll make the motion to purchase the 2021 Chevrolet 2500 HD Silverado for the cost not to exceed $51,291.45, and also remove the wire trailer from the budget.
Okay, so we've got a
Second.
motion and a second. Council, any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next up is item number 20, which is a resolution that the city of Fairhope has voted to purchase one John Deere HD 200 select spray and installation for the golf grounds, and the equipment is available for direct procurement through the Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative Contract, which has been nationally bid and therefore does not have to be let out for bid. The cost not to exceed is $17,000, which is actually $1,400 under budget. Council, I'll entertain a motion.
Second?
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 21 is a resolution that the city of Fairhope has voted to purchase one 2021 Ford F-150 or equivalent for the Public Works Department, and the type of vehicle needed is on the Alabama State Department of Purchasing bid list, and therefore does not have to be let out for bid. The cost not to exceed is $28,828.
Move to purchase the Ford F-150.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 22 is a resolution that the city of Fairhope has voted to purchase 2 John Deere 1550 terrain cut commercial front mowers and rear discharge decks or equivalent for the Public Works Department, and the equipment is available for the direct procurement through the Sourcewell contract, which has been nationally bid and therefore does not have to be let out for bid. The cost not to exceed is $51,235.38, which I think Richard says about $1,700 over budget.
I move to purchase the 2 mowers.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Council, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next up is a resolution, item number 23 is a resolution that the city council award amendment number 3, sewer main point repair and bypass connections to W.R. Mitchell Contractor, and authorize Mayor Sherry Sullivan to execute the amendment for a contract increase for year number 3 for a not-to-exceed total of $500,000. And this was discussed in the work session, but this is not an add-on, and overall, it's a year 3 add-on. Okay. All right, council, I'll entertain a motion on item number 23.
I move to execute the amendment for the contract increase for year number 3.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Council, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 24 is a resolution that the city of Fairhope has voted to purchase 1,000 kVA ERMCO 3 phase pad transformer or equivalent from Graceco Utility Supply, Inc., and 6 50 kVA pad mount transformers or equivalent from Hitachi Energy for the reserve, and authorizes procurement without formal bid based on the option allowed by the Code of Alabama 1975, Section 411651B7. The cost not to exceed is $96,940.
Question for clarity.
Yeah.
I think you said or equivalent, which we discussed in the work session. Is it the equivalent to the phase 3? Can you go to another vendor?
Yeah, that was point of clarification. Yes, that was what we meant, is if for some reason we couldn't get them from these vendors, we want to be able to purchase an equivalent with a not to exceed this amount from another vendor.
All right, so how,
So I think you just say to purchase 1,000 kVA ERMCO 3 phase pad transformer from Graceco Utility Supply or equivalent, say it after.
Right.
And then say, and 6 50 kVA pad mount transformers from Hitachi Energy for the reserve or equivalent.
Just don't put it after transformer.
Right.
okay,
That's
okay.
That's my motion.
Got it.
for
All right,
purchase those.
all right. We've got a motion.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? And I understand my error. And, all right. Council, any other discussion other than my error?
If you could bring it up, we
Okay.
won't be discussing it then either.
Appreciate it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 25 is a resolution that the city of Fairhope has voted to purchase 500 American AX 250 temp compensated meters and parts from the city of Florence for the gas department to replenish inventory, and authorizes procurement without formal bid based on the option allowed by the Code of Alabama 1975, Section 411651B7. The cost is $51,800 plus freight.
So moved for purchase of the meters.
All right, I got a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 26 is a resolution that the city of Fairhope approves the procurement of 500 ERTS. It's okay. ERTS.
Excuse you.
Sorry. For the gas department to be purchased from Consolidated Pipe and Supply Company, Inc., the sole source distributor for the Neptune ERTS.
Excuse me.
The units must fit into our existing standardized system and are exempt from formal bid pursuant to Code of Alabama 1975, Section 411651B7. Total procurement for the quoted price not to exceed is $47,500.
So moved.
We've got a motion and a second.
Move
Any
on.
discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Got to find a little joy up here, guys. All right, item number 27 is an application for beer and wine off-premises license by the Ox Group LLC, William F. Hamilton III, located at 365 South Greeno Road, Fairhope, Alabama. We're good to go? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right. Motion carries. Next item is public participation. If you want to come discuss anything that's not on the agenda, come now or forever hold your peace.
Till next meeting.
Till next meeting. All right. Seeing no one, I will close public participation and go to item number 29, which is an executive session. I'm going to read a letter from our city attorney. As city attorney, I, Marcus McDowell, hereby request the city of Fairhope go into executive session based on Alabama Code Section 3625A7A3 to discuss legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation. Controversy is not yet being litigated, but imminently likely to be litigated. As city attorney, I hereby request that the city council of the city of Fairhope rise from regular city council meeting on Monday, January 24th, 2022. To go into executive session, the city council shall be in executive session for approximately 45 minutes. At the end of the executive session, the city council shall return to the city council chambers to resume regular city council meeting.
I move to go into executive session.
Second.
Do we expect no action taken? All right, all those in favor of going into executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Let's go.
I make a motion.
Got a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Meeting is adjourned.